Have you ever questioned everything you ever learned until now? You are not alone. Welcome to Mystical Mavericks, a tribe that embraces your uniqueness and superpower. Discover how you can access your innate gifts and create a reality of fulfillment, purpose, and passion. Are you ready to go within to win? Discover the keys to success on The Mystical Maverick Show.
Namaste, beautiful souls. Thank you for being here today with us. We have an amazing, beautiful guest with us today. His name is David Falk. He is an American sports agent who primarily works with basketball players in the NBA. He began his career representing professional tennis players for Donald Dale's Pro Serve and is best known for representing sports icon Michael Jordan. We are so blessed to have David. David, welcome to the show. We are so happy you're here with us today. Thank you so much. Before meeting you, I was writing a new song for my new album. I don't know if you're into music, but I have a sense that you're a very intelligent human being, and you have a sense about music and words and vibrations, isn't it?
So I love music. I'm actually a poet, written a lot of poetry. I put some of it to music. I play guitar, not very well, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, so I see it. And I want to share this because, do you hear me okay?
Yes.
David? Okay. David, I want to share this, that when I connect with another being, I make sure that it's not revealed to me, meaning I don't know who's going to show up. And I do it this way on purpose, because everything I do is on purpose and I'm not even doing anything. So before you showing up to this camera, I have no idea that you're going to be here. And as soon as you showed up, I see words, art, music, awareness, high perception, intuition. And this is why I see you. So I don't see your form, I see you. So I'm very happy and blessed that you are here with me today. So thank you for sharing this moment in time. Huh? I'm very appreciative.
What?
It's very beautiful to do this thing that we have no idea what's going to happen. Huh?
I think that when people are spontaneous, they're generally more candid, when they're not giving you a rote program response. And as someone who I think I'm creative, I like to think on my feet. I don't need a lot of practice to speak my mind.
It's very beautiful. I honor this. You don't even know how much, because this is beyond the mind meaningful for me, because I removed the mind. I was born with no mind. So everything I have done in this play of consciousness is through something else.
Okay.
And so those words, I say, the songs I write today before just meeting you, and I think you were the inspiration for this, because I connect with you before you get here. You understand?
Yes.
So it is.
Are you by background? Are you Indian?
I am. Yes. Background is Indian, and Moroccan, and French. So I am in the play. I am a gitana, a gypsy.
Okay, it's cool. So when I was very young, I had 3 very famous tennis clients who were Indian, the Armitage brothers. Vijay became an actor. He was in one of the James Bond movies. Older brother Anand, his son, is a big movie producer. So I've never been to India, but I really want to go.
It's interesting because I think you have been.
Okay.
You're very, very enlightened soul. You have been there. I know, I see. And you have been attracted to go because at one point it was your root of discovery of the truth and wisdom. And you have this attachment to this sacred earth in India. And I believe that when you go, you will immediately know why you're there.
Deja vu. We've all been here before.
Yes,
So
yes, love.
what kind of music do you write? Like, what's the style?
So this doesn't pick up, but they're download and messages of wisdom like this. It's download. So it's tuned in at 432 hertz, and they are transmission like this. And before you get here, so it's very gypsy-like, but transformative. Sometimes I have drums, sometimes there's a flute playing with me, but it's very, I don't know if you can hear,
I can hear.
but it's a 432 hertz. So it's like this. It's through silence. So the words are a lot of time in Sanskrit. So I do kirtan mixed with the songs. So before you got here, and I believe you were the inspiration because I see who you are. And it was like this. I pick up the guitar literally seconds. We are the travelers to nowhere, nameless, formless, the seekers. We touch each other, hearts to hearts. You know?
Very pretty voice.
So it's very thinking, but truth like this, divine encounters, and I feel connected to you. So this is not our first time meeting either.
Okay.
So now that we're here, please, can you share with me on this higher path the is something, a wisdom that can help those like the creators, the yogis, the artists, the entrepreneurs, the co-creators, that they are struggling with their mind. They attach themselves to, for instance, circumstances or expectations and the goal and why not. And some of them are so attached to practices that they lose the freedom to be creative and actually to achieve their goals in this lifetime. Can you share wisdom, whatever comes through you? Because I know you are very successful, and anything that you can share to this audience, to that someone who's now overcoming, they need to overcome this fear, this obstacle, this hindrance. Can you share?
How many hours do you have?
With you, I can pause for you, and with you, I can pause a whole week like this. You and I do a retreat and do it, and that really help people. So with you, it's anything, everything.
Let me try to respond. So first of all, my mother, who was my mentor in my life mentor, was a teacher. She's a highly educated woman. She spoke 8 languages. She was an interpreter. And when I was very young, maybe 8, 9 years old, she started imbuing me with a mantra that is sort of the mantra of my life. Always shoot for the stars and never settle for second best. So I'm an extremely goal-oriented person. And I think to be truly happy in your life, it's not so much a question of making a lot of money or getting a lot of credit. It's a question of sort of Socrates, to thine own self be true. You've got to really do things that give you inner satisfaction. And so for me, at different stages in my life, I've had different things that gave me satisfaction. Obviously, when I was young, I was trying to establish myself in a career as a lawyer in the sports business. Very fortunate. I had a lot of very famous, very successful clients who trusted me to manage their careers, which gave me incredible satisfaction. As I got older, I really enjoyed the teaching part of the relationship with the players. I felt that my job, making the money, was like brushing my teeth. I was very good at that. I didn't have to think about how to do that. I just got up and did it. But what was really harder was to try to teach them, very young men, whose careers often ended when they were 30 or 35 years old, life skills that would be valuable to them when they finished their short careers and had 50 more years to go. And when I look today and I see a lot of them in very successful positions in business, all different kinds of business, it gives me incredible satisfaction, to feel that I had a small role in helping them develop these skills and make a successful transition from one career to another. I say now that, a lot older, I've had my first two grandchildren. And I'm fortunate that my older daughter lives 1 mile away. So every day she brings over her young son, who's a little bit under 2. We have an extremely close relationship. I have the luxury I didn't have when I was in my 20s, and I was traveling and working 125 hours a week. I have the luxury of spending an enormous amount of quality time with him, doing fun things, teaching him things, sharing things with him. And that gives me incredible satisfaction. So I think that a lot of people try to follow other people's blueprint for success. They look how other people define success. And I think you have to learn to define success for yourself. Success means different things to different people. And sometimes it means different things to you at different stages of your life. As you mature and you become more wise, more mature. For example, I thought in my career when I was in my 20s, and I'm negotiating against very successful businessmen, that I had to win. And when I got to be about 40, I realized there was no such thing as winning. To win, both people have to win. Both people have to come out with a successful outcome. And the key to doing that is developing goodwill, because people who like you and trust you will do things that people who don't like you and or don't trust you simply won't do, because they're skeptical that you're trying to take advantage of them or of their clients. And so for me, as someone, negotiating was one of the things that I did. I did many different things, but that was one. I had to learn to be a good negotiator. You almost have to stop negotiating. You have to be more transparent. You have to let the person know what you need to accomplish your goals. And you have to understand what that other person needs to accomplish their goals and how to meld the two objectives together in a successful way. And so today, I teach that. I have a division of law school here at George Washington University, and I teach with my partner. I have a woman partner. I teach negotiations in the law once a week, which is really fun for me. Because I think that if you have been fortunate in life, you have a certain obligation to share your success with other people. It didn't happen by accident. I know there are people in my life that helped, like my mother, that helped pave the way for my success. And I think you have to turn around and give of yourself and your time and your knowledge, your experiences, to help other people reach their success.
It takes a little pause for those who are the seekers of peace and happiness and success. What you share, it takes a little pause to let it assimilate like this, because the brilliance behind it, what you share, the wisdom, the brilliance, the light, when you speak, it's comes from this light consciousness, and it's very beautiful. and I certainly don't take it for granted. You've been here on this earth and doing just this, accomplishing this, and now really returning the favor, paying forward to others. When you speak about negotiation, it hits a nerve because it really comes down to, and you're an expert obviously, so you can develop more about this. It comes back to relationships with someone else, in conflict, in decision-making process, that someone who is in a lack of self-awareness might be blocked to have an outcome, a fulfilling outcome. And this has to do with any success, whether you're an artist, a yogi, or an entrepreneur. You have to come across with someone else and you have to make decisions in that way. Can you develop a little bit more about this making decision process, and perhaps more into the fact that it maybe has to do with the relationship with your own self, first?
Sure. Well, first of all, you talk about conflict. I think most people that I've come into contact with are not good at resolving conflict. Most people don't enjoy having conflict. They shy away from having conflict, and conflicts are inevitable. No matter how much you care about someone or how much you love someone or how much you respect someone, inevitably we're all humans and we're going to come into situations where our views conflict or our ambitions conflict. And I think you have to find a way to confront the conflict. You can't really have a long-term meaningful relationship without learning how to address conflict. And so I think that's what I do for a living. I think for a living, I wouldn't necessarily say it's always conflict, but there are differences of opinion, different people have different goals. And I think I've learned over time, I've worked at it hard to try to be very upfront, to address conflict, and to try to find a resolution. Otherwise, you're not really being sincere with yourself. You're accepting things that you don't like or you don't believe in because you're afraid of offending someone or angering them. And I would say that applies in all sorts of relationships, whether they're friendships, marriages, professional relationships. Most people shy away from conflict. I'm in a business I'm advising a company, and the head of the company is very bright, but he hates conflict. And every time he feels that if he has a discussion with a particular person, it's going to result in conflict, he says, "Would you please call this person and see if you could work it out?" And I do, because it's something I'm comfortable doing. But I think that to have a really deeper relationship with someone, that you have to accept that there are going to come times when you don't simply can't see eye to eye. You don't see things through the same lens or the same perspective, and you have to learn how to deal with it. I think that's the key to any long-term relationship. I think that in business, I would say that we live in a very technological age, and I get proposals with fancy PowerPoints and whatever. I basically make decisions based on people, and oftentimes I'll make a mistake. I'll trust someone that I think I can trust, and they'll disappoint me. But I've never seen a written proposal that doesn't say that the idea is a great one and it's going to be very successful. And obviously, odds are that the majority are not. So I'm a person that relies on my instincts with people to a great deal. I trust my instincts, and I know that I'm going to make mistakes. I think that you have to be comfortable with yourself and accept that no matter how smart you are, no matter how rich you are, no matter how successful you are, no matter how popular you are, you're going to make some really big mistakes. And I have a very simple philosophy that the purpose of making mistakes is to learn from them, so you don't make the same mistake repeatedly. And I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I've tried to. Basically a very introspective person. I always wanted it from a very early age. I wanted to understand how I behaved in different situations. I did certain things, whether that was the right response, the right path. And oftentimes it wasn't. And as I mentioned, I thought I was way too aggressive in my 20s because I wasn't confident, and I think you make a mistake, you get hurt when you make a mistake. Pain is an incentive for you to learn not to make the same mistake again. My mom had an expression for that in psychology. A lot of people have what she called familiar but undesirable behavior. They do the same thing over again, over and over.
Familiar but undesirable.
They repeat the same behavior pattern, even though they know it's going to produce an unfavorable result, whether it's pain, disappointment, whatever. And I'm a person, I could deal with the fact that I'm going to make mistakes. I have no problem with making mistakes, as long as I feel I've given it a fair effort. But when I make a mistake, I want to learn from it. I want to be better the next time. I used to tell young players I met, you should choose me because I've made more mistakes than anyone you're going to meet. I'm older and I've learned not to make the same mistake twice. But a lot of it is having confidence in yourself. A lot of it is being able to look yourself in the mirror, understand who you are and what you need to do to grow and become a better person. And a lot of people don't have the ambition to be a better person. This is the way I am, this is the way I was made. And I'm not that way. I'm a type A plus compulsive. I want, you live on earth for a relatively short period of time. And I want to be the best that I can, physically, mentally, emotionally. And so I work at it.
You work at it. And you, again, you always end up in, you share something and you always end up with the key. Isn't it interesting what you do? Like you would be sharing this beautiful unfolding experience. It's your own experience. It's direct experience. It's true wisdom. It's direct experience. You didn't go read a book and come to me and say, oh, I learned this from a book. It's called true knowledge, like this. That's what you do.
I'm a very strong believer in experiential learning. I have my own college at Syracuse University. It's called Falk, the Falk, David B. Falk College of Sport. It's the only college in America 100% dedicated to sport. And started it 19 years ago to honor my mother, who's an educator. And the premise is you don't need to go to college to read a book about something. And your education is partly in the classroom, and a lot of it's outside the classroom. And so I try to provide experiential situations for the students where there's people who are not academics, but they're practitioners. I have a professor, Dennis Denninger, won 4 Emmy Awards at ESPN and television, and he teaches media. So when he teaches the kids about media, he's not giving them theories, he's sharing his practice. And that's now, there are obviously certain disciplines in nuclear physics that are, or applied mathematics that are very theoretical. But for me, I felt the same way in law school. I went to law school, and because I needed to earn money to put myself through school, I worked after my first semester, a lot of different jobs. I definitely learned way more working in the law than I learned in the classroom, but the two supplemented each other. Each one, they were symbiotic. The classroom gave me a framework to understand what I was doing in the office, and the office proved the theories of what you learn in the classroom. So I'm a strong believer in experiential learning. That's just my own personal. I'm not saying it's for everyone. It's for me. It's what I believe in.
But you know what? To be candid with you. See, I throw away all beliefs. So when I speak to you, there is no, I believe this and I believe that. It's all gone. So I speak like this direct. But what you say might not be for everyone. I don't believe that's the truth. I believe that it is for everyone because we can hide behind the PhDs. But if we cannot talk to another human being and resolve a problem like this, it's not good for nobody. It's not good for the world. And this direct knowledge that we must somehow access, all of us have to. We are cut off from, the solutions and evolutions, actually. The evolutions, our human evolution, our human consciousness that has to evolve. And so I do believe it's for everyone to hear what you just said, because if we hide behind the books and the walls of the schools and the traditions, there's no evolution. Huh? And so what you speak about is about raising consciousness. And when you share what you're sharing, it is raising consciousness. It is creating this bridge for other people to learn from you, because somehow is the most effective thing to do in business and life is, this thing. So thank you so much for sharing this. You hit nerves after nerves with me.
I think the most learning, the most important learning I think you have to do is life learning. You have to learn where you fit in society, what you could do to make an impact on society. You know, for me, I grew up in a relatively dysfunctional family. My parents never should have gotten married. They were polar opposites. You know, back when I was growing up, the general theory was it's better for the children, for the parents to stay married, no matter how unhappy they were. The theory was that having two parents in the home was benefit. Now, I think that's absurd. I think children are very perceptive, and they see their parents arguing, and they see the unhappiness and the frustration, fear. And so I grew up, one of my experiential thresholds, I wanted to have an environment, my own family, that was productive to the development of my children and my grandchildren. And I would say I've done a perfect job. No one's perfect, but I'm extremely conscious. So I'm the kind of person, a lot of people, other than my mother, a lot of people say they have role models. I'm more a kind of person that has anti-role models. I look at how people did things that I didn't like. So I'll give you, so when I teach my students, I give them the following, insight. If you're in high school and you hate high school, you're bored, you think your teachers are boring and they're not connecting with you, and somehow when you finish college, you decide you want to become a teacher. You can be any kind of a teacher that you want, except one kind. You cannot be boring, because you spent years complaining about how the people that were teaching you were boring. And you could be anything, but you can't. You have to learn from this severe disappointment you have at boring teachers. And so for me, when I interact with people that do things that I either don't like, don't respect, don't care for, and I get in the same position, I'm extremely self-aware that I have to be different, or I'll be completely hypocritical. And so I've had a lot of people in my life, in business particularly, and I decide I want to be different. Now, when you read books, you're getting one person's view of the world. May be right, may be wrong, may be right for them, but it may not be right for you. And I'm not saying, reading is a very powerful tool. It's a very, but I think that you have to decide, like, that's why I never read a book about negotiations. I sort of learned to negotiate by watching other people and deciding what fit for me. I tell my students, negotiation is not acting. You could read how I do it, but if you're not comfortable doing what I do, then it's never going to work, because you're never going to be confident And so you have to find a role that fits your personality. And, you know, if you compare that to acting, and I've dabbled in the movie business a little bit. I think many actors are very insecure because every 2 years they're immersed, they become a role. I said this to a very well-known actress once. I said, you know, I could never date a woman like you. She was very pretty. And she said, why? I said, because 1 minute you're a New Jersey housewife, the next minute you're a California Valley girl. And I can't make the transitions that quickly. And she said to, if you were in drama, you'd understand. And I said, I do understand. I just I don't like it. I think you need to have a certain rudder in your life. You need to have a certain level of consistency. Now, you don't want to be boring. You don't want to be stuck in a rut. You have to learn how to grow. One of my male mentor in my life was, ironically, was a black basketball coach named John Thompson, who coached at Georgetown. And he was a very dynamic man, very, very smart man. And I learned so much from him in our 40-year friendship. He died a couple of years ago. And one of his many wisdoms, he used to say to me, he did something once that struck me as very unusual because it flew in the face of something that I knew that he believed in. And he said to me, I never want to be a prisoner of my own reputation. Even though I feel people know me for being a certain thing, if I don't think it works in a particular environment, I don't want to simply do it because that's what people expect me to do because I've done it before. And that takes a lot of courage to step outside of a role that you've played and you've been very successful at and do something different. You have to really have a strong conviction and you have to be very confident in yourself in order to do that. And I repeat that. That's one of the many things he said to me. And I had another great, I was in a meeting a few weeks ago and someone said, why don't you want to treat everyone the same? And I said, my mentor taught me, I don't run a democracy. I treat everybody fairly, but I don't treat everybody the same. So if you look, for example, in sports, pick a basketball, you have 15 guys on the team, 5 start the game, and 10 come off the bench. Now, the number 15 guy wants to start, but he's not good enough to start. Or perhaps the chemistry of him in the starting lineup is not as successful as the person he's playing behind. And if a coach is a good manager, he's not going to let the player interfere with his ability to win by kowtowing to him and starting because he's going to change the chemistry. I think there are players in professional sports, just like there are people in business that are very talented, but they're disruptive. And they disrupt the flow of what a team of people are trying to accomplish. And I think that if you're really a good manager, you're not going to have that person in your group. But unfortunately, in my experience in sports, everyone preaches that character is important and they want people that are marching in the same direction. And the minute they have a chance to get one of these incredibly talented people that are not marching in the same direction, they do, even though they should know before it starts that the overwhelming probability is that it's not going to work. You know, it's like I tell my clients, if you're a man or a woman, I don't want to be a sexist here, you walk down the street, you see a lot of handsome guys, or I see a lot of pretty women, they're not all going to be good wives. Just because they're pretty doesn't mean they're necessarily going to have the traits that you're going to want to have a long-term relationship, you know, beauty, skin deep. And so I think in life, you're enamored by shiny things. Everyone is, including me, by shiny new things. But over time, the luster wears off, and there's got to be enough substance underneath to make it work if you want to have a long-term program, a long-term relationship.
Let's pause. You know, and then you end up with this keynote each time you speak. There is the key the key of this puzzle, this thing that everybody is trying to solve, this thing to success or, happiness, fulfillment, and contentment. And each time you speak, there's so much in this moment that you speak, so much. And then the end, ding, again was the note. You said chemistry.
I'm sorry?
You said chemistry.
Chemistry.
Chemistry is the word that you said at one point.
Yes.
And you said something without saying it. You talked about ego. Really, that's what you talked about, the individual who cannot get out of their own way for the success of all.
Correct.
They have to be disruptive. They have to bring their personality into this thing, instead of looking at the big picture that everybody can win if only we can get out of the way, our own way. So you talked about ego, you talked about chemistry, and then you talked about objects, the shiny objects, you said.
The shiny objects could be a person.
It can be anything that is outside of you. Yes. Because whatever you see, and also your thought is a shiny object. The thought is outside of you, and it becomes this object.
But let's go back for a minute if we can. Let's go back.
Yes.
Talk about ego. I think ego is one of the most misunderstood words in the English. Ego means self in Latin. I study Latin.
Correct.
Every successful person has a very strong ego.
Correct.
A very strong sense of self, level of confidence. The problem with ego is balance. Mm-hmm. And so when I was young, I'm a very prideful person. I made mm-hmm. a lot of decisions based on my pride. And I realized that many of them were destructive to where I really wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So I made a decision that I would work really hard to not allow my pride or my ego to interfere in my judgment. Now, that's the struggle that every human has nonstop. It's a never-ending struggle, because you want to feel a certain way about yourself and you want to accomplish certain things. And oftentimes, as you suggested a few minutes ago, one gets in the path of the other. And most people don't recognize or acknowledge that their own personality is disruptive of their own goals, that their personality, instead of being a bridge, is a barrier to accomplishing their goals. And so I think you have to develop a certain sense of self-awareness. And so I try to see myself in a situation, and when I get to a certain point, I know that someone's challenging my ego, they're challenging my competence, my integrity, whatever. And you have a natural instinct to fight back, because that's your ego, it's your pride. And I'm not saying you should surrender, but how you deal with it to accomplish where you want to come out at the other end is a challenge. And you have to have a game plan to use the things that make you good at what you do, your confidence, your experience, and at the same time to not let your ego interfere. And I think most people are really bad at that, because they're not self-aware and they're not disciplined.
Of course.
They're just not able to balance their emotions and their judgment.
You shared that in Latin, ego means self. It means self in the way that there is the self, the I, blah, blah. That is the self that you described. And however, there is the other self, that you remove the I and the self appears like this, which is, enlightenment. But so this ego is not bad, the ego mind. But the problem, without self-awareness, we don't realize the ignorance and the arrogance. So the problem is that we interfere all the time because we are chasing after the wrong thing, right? So the mind object, ego, is in most often in business, I see it all the time, have become the dictator and not the indicator. So we have to return into using the mind as the indicator outside of you and not the dictator. Because most people in business, and I also mentor successful entrepreneurs, but it seems to me that even those with big success still have this penchant about wanted more. They want more of something. They're never satisfied because this mind is they're slave to it. They're slave to the beliefs of the I want to and I. So what will you speak about self-awareness? Self-awareness, if you, and I know that's what you do, you bring people into a somehow, I'm not sure exactly what you practice is how you get people there, but somehow it has to do with how to develop this self-awareness where somebody can see it for themselves that they are a slave to those things. No?
Exactly. See, when I turned 40, I'll share an experience with you.
Please.
When I turned 40, it's sort of like, I'm a big believer. You can do it anytime you want. You don't have to wait till Christmas to give someone you care about a present. You have to wait till their birthday to tell them that you care about them. But those are artificial stimuli, if you will, to do it. So when I turned 40, I sort of did an inventory of myself, a self-inventory.
Wow.
I realized that I had, out of youth and lack of experience, maturity, I'd burned a lot of bridges unnecessarily. I was too tough when I didn't need to be. And so I wanted to look around this time for a positive role model. For the few times in my life, I looked around at all the different people I knew and said, who do you know, like being successful in America, and this is many years ago, isn't hard. You could develop a algorithm, for an app. You could develop the first garlic flavored potato chip and it becomes the most popular food product. You can develop something and make a lot of money. That doesn't necessarily, that means you're rich, doesn't mean you're successful. I think most people don't wear their success well. Being rich doesn't mean you dress well, doesn't mean you have sophistication or savoir-faire or spirit. Just means you have a lot of money. So I looked around myself and said, who do you know in your world who is really good at what they do, is really self-aware of themselves, and is confident? They're not falsely modest. They're confident, but they're not braggadocious. And ironically, the one person I came to was a man who became a client after that, a great lifelong friend, Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, was the basketball coach. And if people asked him if he was a really good coach, he would say, I am. I think I'm a really good coach. He didn't say he was the best coach of all time. He didn't say, gosh, anyone could do it because, it's the players. He was very direct, very honest, very smart. And we've been friends for years.
Nice.
In a strange way, people like him or John Thompson that you are managing and you are their agent, you're their advisor, in many ways, they share way more advice with me, in life than I have with them. So I tried to learn to balance my own ego, to be, to be candid without being obnoxious. Most people in my very small business would say, in a period of time for 20 or 30 years, I was like the best in my business. I was like the Warren Buffett of my business. Wow. At the same time, I look and say, yeah, well, I was fortunate to have people like Michael Jordan or Patrick Ewing or Coach K or, James. I had great clients who, when I was very young, trusted me, were loyal to me, stayed with me, supported me, became great lifelong friend. And so it was very symbiotic, and I didn't look at myself ever as being as good at what I did as most of them were at what they did. I mean, I never looked at myself and said, like, I'm the Michael Jordan of agents. I might have been, but I thought to myself, wow, I have Michael Jordan. I could never be as good as Michael Jordan. He's the absolute undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And I am, when I was young, and he would tell you this, I was probably unbearably cocky about the things that we accomplished right out of the box. And as I got older and watched him and how he handled his own success in his 20s, I realized I was very lucky just to be on the team.
Wow.
And I didn't have to tell people what I was doing. It spoke for itself, or he would speak for me. And so I learned a great deal. I try to teach my clients, but I learned a great deal. And I think anytime that you are around a very, very successful person in any field, could be anything, you should watch them and learn from them, because there's a lot that you can glean to make yourself a better person. And so I did something for 50 years that I dreamed about doing. It was my dream job. When I was young, I made very little money. I never worried about the money. When I got older, I did a lot better financially, but the money never, I was very happy when I wasn't making money. I was very happy when I was making money. The money didn't make me happy. The accomplishments, the relationships, the chance to leave my mark on an industry gave me tremendous satisfaction.
It gave you tremendous satisfaction. And again, you ended with happiness doesn't depend on circumstances. Circumstances, is that how you do the word you say? I didn't speak English when I came to this country. I was an illegal immigrant, homeless.
You speak beautifully.
So there's some words like world, I cannot say world, circumstances doesn't define happiness. And you said very clearly that happiness is your nature, is your inherent nature. And you said whether you had money or not money, you were happy no matter what. And isn't this the key of success? No, isn't it why you attracted? Perhaps you might say, perhaps being in touch with who you were from the beginning. This flame, this flame for freedom like this. It's what perhaps manifested the whole tremendous iconic success. No,
I'll share something.
You're very beautiful. You're very beautiful. I have to say, I'm very touched.
You're sweet. So in 2009, I wrote a book. My wife had suggested I write a book for a long period of time. And I wanted to do, I love to write. I think I'm a good writer. I think I'm good at expressing myself. I try to be good at expressing myself. And I was concerned that, just like I mentioned earlier, that maybe my perspective on a person, that they didn't look at themselves that way and they'd be offended. So I waited a long time, and finally, in 2009, I wrote a book. And when I finished writing the book, it was a business book. It was about what I've learned from being at the intersection of a lot of very young, talented, primarily African-American athletes, and a lot of older, predominantly white businessmen, Fortune chairman.
Wow.
And I learned a great deal from both. And my clients gave me a bridge to meet these people. A lot of these, if I were a lawyer as a litigator, I would never meet Obama or Clinton or, Hank Paulson, who was the head of Goldman Sachs, or hundreds of people that I met in my career, which was a whole education of itself. So when I got finished writing the book, the publisher said, I want you to take 3 or 4 factoids from every chapter, just summarize 3 or 4 things. So there's one chapter that I was talking about success, and I gave the following insight. In Major League Baseball, the last player to bat 400, average 400 batting average, was Ted Williams. probably 70 years ago. And it's considered one of the most iconic records in all of sports. No one's ever been able to bat 400 in all these intervening years. And yet, if you think about what it means that 60% of the time that he came to the plate to try to get a hit, he failed. His average was 400. Now, in most things, if you got a 40 on a test in school, you'd be on probation. You know, if your productivity was 40% as high as someone else's, you'd be fired. And so the point of sharing the story was learn to define success. Success means different things in different environments, and it's not a uniform concept. And so for me, I was extremely successful when I was in my 30s. I had the best clientele in the history of sports in a very short period of time. But I wasn't making money. You know, a lot of people say, you're not successful, you're poor. You know, and I felt I was successful and I was happy. Now, did I want to make more money? Of course. And I knew I could make more money, but I wasn't willing at that time to take the steps that it would have required to make more money.
Wow.
I thought it would be disruptive to the things that I already had, but circumstances changed and I went on my own. I worked for a person that simply wasn't capable of keeping talented people together. He was a really poor manager. And he was a very successful entrepreneur starting his business. And like most entrepreneurs, he should have gotten out of the way and turned it over to a professional manager. And he would have made 50 times more money than he made in his business. But his ego wouldn't allow him to step away and have somebody else manage it. And so I didn't want to leave. I loved what I was doing. I loved the players I had. And one day I just crossed the bridge in my own mind and I left it one on my own. And all the players stayed with me, the entire clientele. I kept everybody. And it was wonderful. Now I started making money. But what made me happy is my name was on the door. I was doing things the way I wanted to do them. I didn't have to compromise my values because I had a boss pushing me or pressuring me to do things that I didn't think were appropriate or productive. And so I would say to anyone listening to this podcast, both being successful and being happy is something you have to define for yourself. You know, there are many people, you know, who are aesthetic or ascetic and don't have a lot of possessions, and they're very, very happy. You know, one of the funny outcomes to me of the pandemic is that I love clothes. I've always loved clothes. I had very little when I was very young, and when I had some money, I built a nice wardrobe, and I built a house with a very big closet. And then the pandemic came, and every day I wear either Jordan, casual stuff, or Lululemon. I rarely put on a suit, rarely put on a tie. And the pandemic changed our social habits, you know, it just made us a lot more, sort of made the rest of the country more like Los Angeles, where no one's put on a tie in years. And so I was happy when I got dressed formally with a suit and tie, and now I'm happy wearing a mock turtleneck and a pair of slacks, you know. And so you have to define for yourself what makes you happy and what makes you successful. If making money was the only thing that made people successful, nobody would do volunteer work, nobody would do civil service, nobody would work for the government, nobody would be a teacher. And obviously there are millions of people doing all those things, and they're very, very successful. And so I think it's important for you not to let someone else define what success means. It's got to come from inside, or you'll never truly be happy.
Wow. It's got to come from inside, or you will never be happy. This is I mean, that's the truth, huh? What can I
It's
say?
like if you were a woman and you're beautiful, but you didn't feel beautiful, for whatever reason, you're unhappy, you're stressed, and everyone tells you, God, you're so beautiful, but you don't feel it yourself. It's nice to get the compliment. You know, if someone tells you, wow, you know, I'll give you a funny twist on this in the world that I live in, okay? So one of the things that amuses me is when people that really aren't that knowledgeable become commentators on something that they really don't completely understand. They think they understand it.
Okay.
So I'll give like, and I say this to be both serious and in jest, okay? So probably the greatest golfer of our generation is Tiger Woods. And you have hundreds of reporters following his career. And they think they know golf, but they really don't. So he goes out on a Saturday and he hits the ball at the top of his career, not today when he's injured. Hits the ball the best he's hit it in months. Everything that could go wrong goes wrong. He hits a long shot, it hits the flagpole and goes to the water instead of going to the hole. And he gets the double bogey. He hits another great shot, it hits the sprinkler head and it goes in the water. And at the end of the round, make it up, he shoots a 73, he's 1 over par. And all the writers write, geez, Tiger was off today. And he reads this and said, like, what match were you watching? That's the best I've hit the ball in months. Sunday comes and the opposite happens. He just can't find the rhythm that he had on Saturday, but every bad break is a good break. So the ball hits the sprinkler and goes to the cup, and he shoots a 68. And then they write, Tiger's back. That's the real, and he's writing, stop writing about golf. You have no clue to what you're talking about. You know, you're watching it, but you're not seeing it. And so when people around you critique you, sometimes it's nice to hear compliments, but if you're not feeling it yourself, it really doesn't mean anything. If you're not feeling good about yourself internally, then nice to hear the compliments. And conversely, if you think you're doing the right thing and everyone's criticizing you. So my all-time favorite poem, all time, is If by Rudyard Kipling. And there's that famous clip at the end where it says, if you could walk with kings nor lose the common touch, then you'll be a man, my son. I love that because it means that, you know, you have to have your own sense of self. And if you really believe what you're doing is right and everyone is questioning you and criticizing you, if you believe in yourself, you're going to do it. And conversely, if you're doing something you know is wrong, it's morally wrong, it's ethically wrong, it doesn't make sense in business, and everyone's encouraging you to do it, you know, then you're getting really bad advice. So you have to follow your heart.
Isn't it interesting? Before you say heart, did you see what happened? Just before you said the word heart, second, I put my hand on my heart and you said heart. Isn't it beautiful?
Paying attention. You don't think I'm paying attention to you, but
no, you are, we are very connected. You say, you say, I mean, can you imagine? You said self. You said you have to have a sense of self. What you're speaking about is the highest wisdom, is the self-realization, self-actualization. So obviously, yes, of course, I put my hand on my heart. The connection to this place, which is beyond the heart, you know, is the energetic vibration that holds this consciousness, is the compassion, the love. And you sure demonstrate this in your abilities, in your work, in your passion, in with others. The best gift you can give someone is this, what this divine, what you are, this divine knowledge, the divine self. This is the highest gift you can give someone.
I think in today's world, 2004, it's a growing challenge for many. We live in a very technological society. People believe that the answer to the important questions are solved by algorithms um, or equations. And I think that those are all very useful tools. You know, in my college, at Falk College, we're the first college in the United States to give a degree in analytics. And I love analytics. And I say to my students the following: is Warren Buffett the greatest investor in American history because he has information on his Bloomberg screen that no one else has? So when he evaluates Coca-Cola or the Washington Post or, you know, NetJets, a company that he's involved with, he has access to information that's only he sees. And the answer is no. He sees exactly the same information that everyone else sees, but based on his knowledge, his experience, his ability to synthesize information, he makes better judgments based on that information than anyone else makes. And so I think the challenge of the things we're talking about, and people think that, I think a lot of social skills and social interactions have been corrupted in the last 10 or 15 years. Young people spend the whole day on their phones, texting, you know, TikTok, Instagram, and those things are all fun, but there still has to be an ability to interconnect personally, you know, to reach someone eyeball to eyeball, to do what we're doing. Like right now, we could be doing this podcast, we could be texting each other. I wouldn't know what you look like, wouldn't know your reaction to what I'm saying. And as you would tell me, I think, if I shut up for a minute, that you're feeding off my energy. That the things that I'm saying, you're connecting. You don't agree with all of it, but you agree with some of it. And there's a certain symbiosis in the discussion because you're giving me things to think about, and I'm trying to respond to them and give you my view. Some of them you feel, wow, that's exactly how I feel. And some you say, wow, totally disagree. I don't think that's really wrong. But it's the basic art of human interconnection. And I think in our very technological we don't have a lot of time for that. We've substituted technology, phones, internet, you know, tablets. And I think it's harder to find happiness today because we're losing the ability to a certain extent to connect with people. And I think at the end of the day, because ego does mean self, all boils down to people. And I know in my world, I measure a lot of my own success, not all of it, but a lot of it, by my ability to maintain long-term relationships. And so when I look at being married, I'll be married 50 years in June. And I tease my friends that my wife should get the Nobel Peace Prize putting up with me for all these years. But I'm very proud that, you know, marriage is very difficult. You have two very people with different backgrounds, different, you know, values, and coming together and learning how to compromise and make it work for a long period of time. And it's no different than having long-term friendships. My best friend, Reed Kahn, is a lawyer, met when I was 9 years old in the fourth grade, and both in our 70s. You know, it's 64 years later. He's like my brother. You know, I lived with a gentleman, Dr. Ken Pellegrino, at college for 3 years, and we were seniors in college in 1972. He and his wife and me and my wife, we all lived together in an apartment. And 50 years later, we're still married. We're great friends. It's like family to me. And I place tremendous emphasis on the human capital in those kinds of relationships, just like I feel a similarly with the great relationship I have with Coach Thompson. I told him all the time that while I'm your advisor, you're paying me to be your advisor, I clearly have learned way more from you than I could ever teach you. To a certain extent, I feel the same with Coach K and Michael Jordan. Those people have allowed me to guide them and be around them and learn their secrets of incredible success, not simply as athletes in business, as in popularity. And so I feel blessed. I did something I loved for a long period of time. I derived tremendous personal satisfaction. I think I got a lot of wisdom from working with these people. And it was, I wouldn't substitute for the world. But today, I've sort of, the enjoyment has waned. You know, the environment's changed, rules have changed. And just like John taught me when I was young, I don't want to be a prisoner of my own reputation. So I'm moving in different directions now. I think it's time to keep growing.
Can you speak about the new direction? Can you speak
Sure.
about your new creations? Also, please title the books. You said that you wrote a book about
Book,
the
it's like,
please.
title of the book is like my head. It's called The Bald Truth. And I think most people don't want to hear the bald truth. People want the truth to be varnished. They want it to be, you know, sugar coated. And me, I respect people. It's like I used to tell my clients the following: I'm going to always tell you the truth. A lot of the time, you're not going to want to hear it, and you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you. Hiring me to give you an analysis of your situation and recommendations on the best way to manage it. So I'm like a doctor. If you come to me and say, hey, my knee hurts, and I examine you, I give you an MRI, and I said, hey, Oma, you have a problem with your meniscus, needs to be replaced. And you said, I do not want to have surgery. You know what I'm going to tell you? Great. Then quit complaining about your knee. Do what you want, but I don't want to hear any more complaints because I'm going to tell you what it's going to take to fix your knee. It's up to you whether you want to do it. And so I think it's important to have people around you that you can trust will not tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. I always thought that was my job. But as time has gone by and the money's gone up and the whole culture has changed, and it doesn't give me as much satisfaction. So I don't want to be a prisoner of what I've done. I think I have enough talent and experience to do things that will continue to give me great satisfaction. So I've become an entrepreneur. I'm involved in about a dozen companies as an advisor, strategic advisor. I'm a teacher, both at college and in law school on a regular basis. I really enjoy that. I want to write another book. I've made about 10 movies. I'm currently involved in 2 right now, trying to help the family of John Thompson, navigate Hollywood to do a documentary and a feature film on his life.
Wow.
And I'm trying to do things that will enable me to keep growing as a person, challenge myself, and to make me happy. And obviously, one of the things that makes me the happiest in the last several years is being a grandfather. I'll tell you a funny line that someone told me. It's not my own, so I don't want to take credit for it. They said, if you knew how much fun grandchildren were, you would skip having children.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I love my 2 daughters.
I've never heard that. That's great.
I have 2 daughters who are great, and I speak to them almost every day. But the grandkids, something special for me because it's sort of a way of correcting, I wouldn't say a mistake, perhaps a failure. I didn't have the luxury of spending as much time with my 2 daughters when I was establishing my career. I was in my 30s. I was traveling a great deal, working 125 hours a week. And while they would say that I was around a lot, I didn't feel that I was around as much as I would have liked. And now that I have the luxury of controlling my schedule, every day for my grandson, every day. And I look for, I feed him, I play with him, and it gives me incredible. People who know me feel like I'm like, what do you want?
You soften up.
I'm trying to find a way to bribe my daughter, my younger daughter, to move from LA to Washington so I could see her daughter, Charlie, as often as I see my grandson. I'm afraid I'm going to have, a disparity in terms of time. And I want to see them as much as I can. So I I think I'm a very self-aware person. I think I have a
Mm.
good sense of who I am. And so in my career, you know, just like the sports writers didn't understand Tiger Woods, I'd say the vast majority had no clue. A lot of them would write things about me without ever meeting me or talking with me. And I would say I liked it, but it didn't bother me. I learned to ignore it because
Ah.
now, if it was accurate, I probably would have paid attention to it. If I thought it was accurate, I would have paid more attention to it. But you have to learn to weather criticism if
Mm.
you want to reach your goal.
Such a huge point.
And
Huge.
I'm a very competitive person, so most of the time when people would tell me either that I wasn't doing a good job or I wasn't capable of achieving something, that really motivated me. So I recently I've developed a new description of myself. You know, as you evolve. So there's a great comic book hero, which become both a TV show and a movie
Uh-huh.
called The Incredible Hulk. And it's about a scientist named Dr. David Banner, who's a very mild-mannered guy. Just basically wants the people to leave him alone, wants to be in his lab and do his work. Because of some kind of a genetic malfunction, if you poke him the wrong way or you instruct him the wrong way, he explodes, it becomes the Hulk. So I tell people in business,
Oh.
I don't like being the Hulk. I'm very good at being the Hulk. And people look at me like I am the Hulk because of my accomplishments. But I really think I'm Dr. David Banner. And I think if you just treat me respectfully and in a friendly way, you don't, you know, challenge me. I'm very easy to work with. But if you poke me in the wrong place, it's beyond my control. I'm going to become the Hulk. And I don't want to be the Hulk. I don't need to be the Hulk. You know, I'll tell you, I'll give you the opposite, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
My all-time favorite movie is The Godfather with Marlon Brando. Actually, my favorite was Godfather 2, where De Niro is the star, but Godfather was a blockbuster movie. It came out in 1970. And I ask my students when I teach, why doesn't the Godfather ever raise his voice? No matter what happens, he never raises his voice. And most of them answer me because Marlon Brando had gauze in his mouth. I said, no, that's why Marlon Brando doesn't raise. Why doesn't the Godfather?
Character.
And they say, I don't know. I said, the answer is because he has all the power. He doesn't need to raise his voice. If he says to his lieutenant, Clemenza, I would like you to do this thing for me. And he barely is whispering, Clemenza's going to do it immediately because he's the Godfather. So I think that people who have a great deal of power can be very calm and quiet. And people who don't have power seem to feel the need to yell and bring attention to themselves because they're insecure that they don't have the power. So as an example, in my business as an agent, I read in the paper all the time, an agent will complain the team isn't paying his client enough money, or the team isn't giving his client enough playing time. Now, to me, what he's advertising is that he's not very good at his job. Because he was good at his job, the player wouldn't be underpaid, and he'd be on a team where we're playing the right number of minutes. I never wanted to advertise that I wasn't good at something. I might not be good at it, and I might know that I'm not as good as I want to be, but I wouldn't want to advertise it. So I think that really confident people sort of do what Teddy Roosevelt used to say, they walk softly and carry a big stick.
You are so good with words, by the way. I can listen to you, you know. I don't like to listen to a lot of people. This is just between you and I. Well, now it's on the show, so I cannot help myself. I spoke my truth. I don't like to listen to talk because talk, you know, but listening to you is the words have they carry on. And you said, and I know you're probably running out of, you know, I don't live in time, so I don't see time. I'll just live like this. So, but I know you have a busy thing going on probably, and I have to go and you have to go. But can you please share a little bit of your poetry? And that's okay if you don't, because earlier you talked about poetry. Um, Anything you can share about your poetry?
Give me like 5 seconds to step
Yes,
over.
please, please. It would be lovely. What a beautiful, if we could close this place and time, this sharing, this wisdom, this
So
this phenomenon that this is.
I generally, I, I, I love puzzles.
Okay.
My mother was a maestro at puzzles, crossword puzzles, acrostics. I do, I think I work out every day with a trainer. That's for the physical side. Every night I play hours of Scrabble and things because as I get older, I want to try to keep my mind fresh. And my biggest fear is not that I'm going to get fat or lazy, it's that I'm going to lose my cognitive ability. And I'm working very hard to maintain it as a high level as I can. So a lot of the poems I've written are anagrams, where the first the first letter of every line spells something.
Okay.
And so John Thompson, who I've written, and people who know me know that he's been the most influential man, including my own father, a very influential man in my life. I love the man, and we had a very special relationship. Um, and he wrote a book, a really powerful book called "I Came as a Shadow," and that was the title of the poem that he had an uncle who was a poet, Lewis, wrote this poem, and his daughter Tiffany came up with the title for the book from the poem. So I wrote him a poem for his birthday, right before he died, and the first letter of every line in the poem spells "I came as a shadow." And so the poem is in front of me. It's a special gift to find true friends whose care and love know no true end, and whose advice and trust you can always depend. Meaningful friendships stand the test of time. No excuses, no exceptions, and no real need to define. And they grow deeper and stronger like a truly fine wine. So many life lessons you've been my teacher, and your deep-seated wisdom has made my life richer. Seeing the world through your very unique view has broadened the perspective of so much that I do. Acknowledging again how much you mean to me, I dare say you've helped shape what I aspire to be. Our friendship has been one of my life's mainstays, and I wish you the best on your very special day. It's very hard for me to read that without getting very emotional because I think of a guy, but it's just my way. It's all the things we talked about, my way of connecting with him on a very, very deep personal level and letting him know how much love I had for him, and how much admiration and respect, and how much our relationship meant to me in my life. And interestingly, and I don't want to get this is sort of a little bit on a tangent, but so when I wrote the book in 2009, the whole second chapter of the book was about him. After the introduction, it was the opening of the book. And someone gave him the book and told him, read the chapter on you. So he called me one day and he said, I didn't read your book. I just read the chapter on me. And I wanted to thank you for what you said, in the book that I was the most influential man in your life. And I said to him, John, that can't be a surprise to you. I've told you that many times. And he said, shut up for a minute. You love to talk. Now just listen. He said, you don't understand what it means in our society today for a person who's white and who's been as successful as you are, to say that an African-American man has been the most important, mentor in his life. And I said, I didn't write it to make a social statement. I wrote it because it's how I feel, came from the heart. I didn't have to think about it. It wasn't like it was a revelation, something I've known for a long time. And he said, no, I appreciate that, but I want you to learn that it does make a statement, even though you made it intended that way. And it's one of the things I loved about him is he was able to translate things for me. In our society today, we live in a multicultural society. And I think most people don't acknowledge that we live in a multicultural society. They're not aware of the tremendous cultural differences we have between different people. And over a 40-year period, I used to say about John that if I were going to climb Mount Everest, I'd hire a Sherpa guide because they know every rock and every crevice. And if you want to be successful climbing the most challenging mountain in the world, you need someone who knows how to navigate the terrain. And I think that in race relations in America, he was my Sherpa guide. He taught me things that I never would have thought about, never would have seen with my own eyes. He opened up my eyes to try to understand it as an outsider, not as an insider, because obviously I'm not Black. And I think that in our society today, it's not simply a racial thing, it's a cultural thing. We have many different cultures in America. We're having a terrible time right now, which bothers me greatly, understanding what's going on in the Middle East.
Yes.
It pains me to think that when a group declares war on another group and the group that's been attacked fights back, that people find that that's inappropriate. I don't know any country in the world, if they were attacked, that wouldn't attack back and protect citizens in their territory. It bothers me greatly that I'm Jewish, that Jewish people who've been the most incredibly supportive of civil rights in America, that young African-American people seem to be more attuned to the Palestinian cause than to the Israeli cause. And I think we all need mentors like a John Thompson to try to help explain to us the nuances of these situations, because world peace depends on it. Depends on understanding other people's cultures and other people's values, not making knee-jerk reactions based on what you read on TikTok or Instagram. These are very incredibly complex issues that deserve the attention that. I was telling friends of mine, a lot of people have asked me, and I'm not political, so I don't want to get off on a tangent, but when you read about what's going on in Colombia and USC every day, I want to make a statement. I hope a lot of people listen to this. In World War II, the United States made a number of strategic decisions to try to save the lives of the soldiers and to protect the freedom of America. They dropped 2 terrible bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, killing hundreds of thousands of people and maiming their children and grandchildren because of genetic disorders. The last battle of World War II in the Pacific was in Manila, and the Japanese had taken the Filipinos as human shields. And in order to win the battle, the US made a determination that a lot of Filipinos that were human shields would have to be killed in order to successfully liberate Manila from the Japanese. And 1 million Filipinos were killed in the battle, 1 million, not 35,000 like in Gaza. It's horrible that anyone has to die in Gaza. I mean, I feel for the people, but when terrorists use citizens as human shields and declare war on another country, the result is obvious what's going to happen. And the whole world should know it's obvious, because that's what we've always done in America, for the greater good, to protect our freedoms, citizens. And so I'm pointing this out not to be a politician, but because of the importance of trying to respect other people's cultures. And but you have to understand it. And I would admit that I didn't understand it at all until I had someone like John Thompson educate me to a very small degree to understand and be sensitive to the kind of cultural differences that we face every day. I think it made me a wiser person, a better person, and I'm very grateful to him for that.
In this way, the connection, obviously is still there.
He will always,
This
like
is not, yes, of course.
my mother, he'll always live in my heart. I mean, not physically, but his teachings and his impact. And that's ultimately what you dream about. You aspire as a teacher to be able to impact the people that you're teaching. And, I'll end on this note. I have been honored and humbled, and I'm not a humble person, to have a chance to work what I would say are the best and the brightest in my generation. People like Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, John Stockton, Dominique Wilkins, Alonzo Mourning. I could name a lot of names. I'm leaving some out. Elton Brand, Juwan Howard, people who are great people and Hall of Fame talents, Coach K and John Thompson. And I've learned a great deal. Those people enabled me to do something I dreamed about. Wake up every day and love going to work. And I think it's very important in life to be able to say openly and unabashedly to thank someone when they've done something special for you, to tell someone whom you love. It's important to tell them that you love them. There's a famous movie called I Never Sang for My Father about a young boy whose father was very driven and critical, and he resented it. And then the father died unexpectedly, and the son was guilty because he never was able to tell his father that he loved him. I tell people around me, I think it's very important on a regular basis to tell people whom you love that you love them, or people whom you like that you like them, or people you respect. And I try to do that as much as I can, because you never know whether the opportunities could be foreclosed. And you never want to look back and regret that you didn't have a chance to share something. And so with John, I would tell him all the time. I tell him all the time how much he meant to me. I try to tell my wife, I try to tell my children, I try to tell my friends. And more important than telling them, I try to show them, because I think sometimes that actions are more important than words. You could tell someone you care, but there are situations where you could show them that you care. And I think that's the ultimate test.
I'm not. Yes, it is the ultimate taste.
We both have tears in our eyes, so it's making me very emotional.
Yeah, but the truth is,
to talk about these things, but
it's very good. It's what pierced the veil. It's most necessary. Those conversations are beyond words, but it's necessary for the wake up of those who are seeking. They need to hear. They must hear that it comes from someone like as yourself. Guru in Sanskrit means guru, means the light and the dark, and the guru means teachers. They also mean deeper meaning. The translation really is the one who gives light to the darkness, the one who give light to the darkness, the one who take darkness away. So you, my friend, is that just like that, the guru. That's what you do. And those candid conversation must happen and open like this with love and compassion and gratitude. The world needs more of this. Wow.
I lost my
So,
I lost my train of thought when I started telling you the story about how grateful I was to work for these people.
mhm,
You know, people who don't know you personally, if you have any kind of a public visage,
mhm,
they form opinions of you based on what they see.
mhm,
It's just, which is human nature.
of
And
course.
oftentimes, you know, you'll meet someone and say, "Wow, you're really different than I expected." And so, in my world, I have things that are personal to me that I place importance on. And about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, they did a documentary on me called David Falk, Agent of Change. And the very first thing that comes on is a scene, they're interviewing Michael Jordan, who clearly is my most prized client, if you will, most famous client, most successful client, and a guy that, you know, there aren't enough words in the English language for me to thank him for his loyalty, his support. He made me who I am. Just being on his team gave me a different public visage. And if people ask me, what is the absolute biggest compliment that Michael Jordan could give you? It wouldn't be that I made him a lot of money. It wouldn't be that I invented Air Jordan. It wouldn't be any of those things. The biggest compliment he gave me is exactly what he said when they interviewed him, very simply and elegantly. And he said, David taught me the business. He explained to me um, the value that I had in my personality, my image, and he exploited it. He gave me a blueprint of how to make it work for me, custom and tailored to me, not how Magic Johnson did it or how Larry Bird did it or Dr. J or anyone else, not how Usain Bolt did it or Obama did it. We came up with a game plan when African American athletes were not considered marketable on a national level. He was the breakthrough person, and
Wow.
to me, his acknowledgement of that, of the teaching, the highest compliment. I was so flattered and moved by what he said, um, because that's how I feel. You know, I feel that life is short, and you come across certain people that can change your life, and the
Yes.
best way they're going to change your life is by educating. It's like the famous Chinese proverb: "Don't give a man who's hungry a fish. Teach him how to fish." And I tried my best to teach my clients how to fish, and to have someone as successful, uniquely successful as Michael Jordan acknowledge that publicly is the highest compliment that he can.
Oof. It might be a little pushy. Would you consider to uh, put your poetry into an offerings, maybe an offering like a book or some type of offering?
Thought about, you know, most of it is very personal. Like a lot of poetry I wrote to my wife when we were dating.
Okay. Okay.
But I would tell you, if I could find it, when I was very, very young in my teens, and I tried to step outside of myself and look at myself and try to understand myself. I was trying to understand who I was. And I wrote a lot of poetry. You know, I haven't been able to find it. But, you know, I think I'll answer you in a different way.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest problems most people have is expressing their vulnerability. No one wants to, it's like the expression, never let them see you sweat. I think really confident people have no problem expressing their vulnerability because they can deal with it. We all have vulnerabilities. We all have insecurities. We all have things we're not confident about or things we're not good at. Like for me, easily, the thing I'm the worst at is singing. And it frustrates the hell out of me because I love music. I know a lot of songs. I've written songs, and they all come out the same. I wish I told I told a friend of mine who's a very talented sax player. He said there's a device that you can put on your throat that changes your voice. And I said, I definitely need that. But as you can tell, I love to express myself, both orally and in writing. And the fact that I can't sing frustrates me, but I would never argue for 1 millisecond that it's a failing.
I have an idea.
And you have a beautiful voice.
Oh, blessings. You know, maybe you and I write a song together and I'll be your voice.
There we go. I thought about that.
So if you like, and this is later, we can talk about all this, but what a privilege and an honor to put music on one of your poetry. And then let me be your voice. I can do the singing, but it's really the transmission of what you wanted to share. And the music, I produced music for a long time, so it's easy for me to do.
I'll take you up on your offer.
It would be amazing. It would be lovely.
Last funny story. I gotta go.
Yes, of course.
This is a very funny story.
Mm.
So there was a time, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, when both professional teams, football teams, left Los Angeles, the Raiders and the Rams. And I was invited to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee on what they call franchise relocations. And Congress was considering enacting laws to restrict teams from leaving a city because that's such a huge economic impact. And so I was invited to testify. And the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee was the senior senator from Utah, Orrin Hatch, who was a very well-respected man.
Okay.
So I testified on and off over a 3-day period. And I was questioned by the senator from California who died recently, Dianne Feinstein. And she said, Mr. Falk, are you aware that both teams have left the state of California and the economic impact that this has caused? Don't you think that we should have some protections? And I said, Senator, let me ask you a question. If I owned a chemical plant in Texas and it was 30 years old and it needed massive renovations, and I went to the city it was in and asked, can you help subsidize the cost of renovating my factory? Because I employ a lot of people, create a lot of jobs. And they said, Mr. Falk, you must be stupid. You're a private business and you're asking a public entity to subsidize a private business. I said, I understand. And the next day, the state of Utah called me and said, hey, I heard you need a new plant. If you move your plant to Utah, we'll pay for the whole plant for free. What law in America would prevent me from moving? So at the end of the testimony of 3 days, had a lot of witnesses. Orrin Hatch got up to summarize the testimony. And he said, I want to go on record as saying that I am definitely a free trade advocate. Now, I'm not certain I'm as free a free trade advocate as Mr. Falk, but I'm definitely a free. And he sent me the congressional record. He signed it, and we became good friends. Wow. And one day I took him to lunch at a restaurant that I was involved with downtown Washington. And he told me he had written 600 songs, mostly religious theme, and he wanted to write a song together. And died shortly thereafter. We never got a chance to do that. So you're the second person in my life that has invited me to write a song. And so I'm definitely going to take you up on it while I'm still able to collaborate.
Yes, of course we will.
You have to sing it. That's the condition.
Oh, that is not a problem. I sing in my sleep, so it's not a problem.
And we're gonna have E-Rock be our agent to sell us song.
We'll be having E-Rock doing the part of the agent and sell the song. That is not going to be a problem either, because there's a divine order why things happen. It is not like this, and this is why I don't control anything or I don't do anything. It just happens, and I let it happen. It's very beautiful. I'm very touched. I know you gotta go, and we will see each other soon. Many blessings, divine blessings to you, your family, and those who are also here in your field of consciousness, your divine friend is always here. And there is no disconnect. Huh? And so, Lokaha Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu means may all beings be at peace, may all beings be free from suffering, and may all we contribute somehow in each other's happiness. That is like this. I wanted to send you love, light. David, you are remarkable. Thank you so much for this gift that you're going to touch so many. I will continue to flow, huh? This is not the end.
I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm going to make a suggestion. So I'm a very big fan of the Beatles since I was a teenager.
Okay.
I read yesterday that John Lennon had an acoustic guitar. I think it was called a Hootenanny, and it was lost for 50 years. They just found it yesterday, and they expect
No way.
this could be auctioned off for the highest price in history for guitar.
Oh.
So I think we should buy the guitar.
Hell yes.
when we record our song.
Let's do this. Oh my God. Let's just manifest this. Come on, let's do it.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it and look forward to connecting again.
Much love. Much love. Mystical Mavericks, thank you for watching this episode. You know, David Falk, it comes with so much wisdom. It is very almost difficult for me to be able to pull just that one or two or three things, because you really have to be really conscious when you listen to David sharing his life story, his direct knowledge, his light like this, his success with us. It's reveal itself. And if you're watching the show, if you're watching this episode, perhaps ask. So this is the wisdom I like to share from this episode. Perhaps I'm going to do something different. Instead of me sharing with you, oh, this is what the wisdom came through. Obviously, it is about believing in yourself and developing your self-awareness and, self-actualization. And it's so much, it's over an hour. I mean, can you imagine? And we could have gone hours and hours. So beautiful. He shared the beauty, the love like this of his direct experience, his direct life experience in life and business. So instead of sharing that, I usually share the nuggets of what transpires from those conversations. I'm going to simply ask you to ask yourself this. Ask yourself this. Who am I? Who am I? What is my purpose? Ask yourself, what am I? What am I? Not even who am I? What am I? What do I want from this life experience? What is the feeling that I like to feel in my life and in my business? Is it fear-based? Is it love-based? I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, am I conscious? Am I living consciously? Am I happy? Or am I chasing after happiness? Am I chasing after the shiny objects who sure enough can make me happy for a moment? But am I really happy? When I gain something, am I really happy? Ask yourself, am I really happy about what I'm doing in here? Or do I need to consider perhaps changing, And the only thing that we can really truly shift is the inner awareness, the feeling that we have about ourselves. Can we stand up without shaking? Can we stand up and can we have that feeling of confidence? Because once you know who you are, what you are unshakable. It's beyond, it's beyond the practice. So yes, one need to practice first. There is some effort to be done. But at one point is more about giving up what you think you are. So in the show, he mentioned to be able to have an ego, but not letting the ego take over, not being the slave of your status, of your circumstances. Know what you are and have confidence, have faith in yourself, the self, the higher self. Because the ego in Latin, like he said, it means self. But this translation of ego is mind self. I'm talking about how to unlock, develop awareness of the self so you can unlock your higher purpose, your higher self. So you have the confidence to do what it is that you want to do. And it always have to be something have to do with how you help others, no? It would be very lonely to live this success by yourself. Doesn't it always have to be with someone else? But first, you have the relationship with yourself, your higher self. So I trust that you enjoy the show. I trust that you enjoy the Mystical Mavericks, what is shared with words and beyond words, beyond reason, beyond logic as well. And take what you need. Take what you need, what serves you. Maybe there is things in the show that doesn't serve you. That's okay. It's not for everyone, you know? It's not possible to please everyone. You have to let go of that too. You can't please everyone. But you have to learn how to love yourself with confidence and faith and compassion and forgiveness. Because the one you have to forgive is not necessarily the others, but to forgive yourself is very difficult. But once you get there, is the gateway of liberation, the gateway of liberating what you are at all levels. So you can live happiness. And happiness, it is what you are already. So with that, my friends, I send you love, light, divine blessings, many beautiful success and beautiful divine friendships on your journey, on your higher purpose, on your higher path. And know that there is those whose purpose, like a little lantern, are here to guide you, that you are not alone, even though today you might feel alone. But know that we are here. We are here. Very, very much so, in the light and the love and the understanding. So if you need to reach out, reach out. I love you. Thank you for being here on the higher path, and we can gather together higher and higher. Love, much love. À bientôt. Bisous, bisous. Ciao, ciao.
You have just listened to another enlightening episode of Mystical Mavericks. Please visit mysticalmavericks.com for additional resources and to learn more about our mentorship, giveaways, and gatherings. Be sure to subscribe and share so you don't miss the next episode of Mystical Mavericks.